Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? All right, so this is learning about yourself. When you're in the world, you're going to be into variables or into people, places, and things that are predetermined for you as far as where you should apply your attention so you can create static thoughts and feelings in terms of the electromagnetic ocean, as far as the feelings that you're swimming in, because a lot of the times the external environment that we're in may affect how we feel based on that external environment not matching what we're vibrationally in tuned to do and be, right? Because a lot of the times, based on us not understanding ourselves, based on us not knowing ourselves, we'll put ourselves among people, places, and things that have nothing to do with what we're here to develop as far as, what we value, or as far as the things that we have on schedules and routines in order to perfect and refine and, grow and expand, so those things can be eventually become our status, what we're seen for on the world stage and things like that, right? But a lot of the times we're not even able to reach those things because we don't understand ourselves and who we are, because we're so invested into the external world, into the rat race. You know the rat race? How they have convinced people that they need to run around and chase money and chase external things, while these very finite things that we're chasing, like money, cars, and all these things are great, but there's a right way of going about those things and there's a wrong way of going about those things. The wrong way is actually selling yourself to those external things as if that's the essence that matters, right? Because you gotta remember what's inside of you, because what's inside of you what's inside of you matters as well. What's outside of you, what's inside of you, have this correspondence, this relationship, you know the same way your external environment can influence you and breathe into you influences that can either beautify you or can bring you closer to spiritual death, as far as being in a state of contraction and not being able to express the infinite potential that is within you because of the finite environment, or let's say the finite workplace, or whatever the finite is that you're experiencing. We need to understand that there's something greater than us all around us all the time that's trying to breathe life into us. But if we're not able to be in tune with it, if we're not able to understand ourselves and who we are, we're not going to be able to tune our external environment. We're not going to be able to create a bios, which is basically creating a set of instructions, which is like a mantra, like a self-talk basically, that suggests to your subconscious mind that you should move into this direction that is actually good for us. But see, when we don't know ourselves, we're gonna find ourselves doing strange things for a peace of mind, first of all, and then hanging out with people, places, and things that ain't got nothing to do with the path that we're set on. Because the instructions that we're giving our chakra, that we're giving our mind, is a whack one, right? It's from the external world, from the environment. The external world, the external environment, it has basically it will give you retarded ass ways of thinking and feeling in terms of how you should carry yourself and use your internal resources, or your configuration, your composition of your personality, of your actions and reaction, the celestial combination of astrological configuration that makes up you as a space, because you are an interactive space, right? And what I mean by that is, I mean that on a dimensional level, because when you communicate an idea, that affects the world in a certain way. When someone else outside of you communicates an idea to you, how that hits you is different than how that hits another person. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is how you interact with the world as an individual is far more different than how another individual interacts with the world, with the people, places, and things in the world as well, right? Because you're experiencing things from your space. Now, the mechanisms is the same. We all have a heart chakra, let's say. We all have a physical heart. We all have a throat chakra. We're all able to speak and things like that, right? Use the air element, words and logic. We can all have ideas and things like that. But some of these organs, because this whole body is the temple of God, right? And when you created your temple of God, you became aware more of certain areas, and you go about each area of your life, the area that you became aware of in your own way, in your own way. You have your own way of going about those things. So the same, so how, let's say for example, the third house in astrology, how you communicate around your environment, your friends, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. You don't go about that circumstance, that situation, the same way that that other person does, because you're facing it from a different way. You're looking at it from a different way. So you have your own perspective, you have your own point of view, and shit like that. So you got to get into understanding, because I know I had to get into understanding who I was and how do I go. It's not even understanding who you was. It's just things you do automatically. But the more you become aware of those things and shit like that, you can start to use those things for your benefit rather than your demise, right? Because we're already doing those things. But the more we're aware of how we're going about those things as individuals and shit like that, then we're able to look at it from a different perspective and hopefully not get attached in some type of ego about it and try to move forward from where we were, because we all want to go towards a bigger, brighter future for ourselves, not necessarily a dimmer one. See, when I say dim and I say bright, these are literally astronomical, basically phenomena and shit that happen in a set point of time. Same way we experience day, same way we experience night, and shit like that. But the way you go about those things is way different than how other people go about those things. Like the night, for example, is where we came from, right? That's like the unseen realm. That's like before we created bodies, before we came separate and shit like that, created our own version of the light and shit like that, and our own compositions and shit like that. The day is like the external, objective, external reality and shit like that, the solid, what we visibly see and shit like that. But how we experience those is different. How you go inside of your yin realm, your subjectivity, how you utilize that, what you experience in that area, what you're comfortable with, is different than someone else's. AKA, these are fluids, these are astral energies, temperaments that create behavior that we're generating as far as an elemental that we basically create inside of ourselves to experience reality, right? So, how big, man, how can I explain this? Well, it's basically like how basically your subconsciousness, right? Your moon sign, your internal realm, your yin realm, right? The way that you interact with that is going to be way different than how the way someone else interacts with that, because it's going to be like a substance that you're going to, with properties, and you're going to be able to do things with those properties in that substance, right? So, aka how you receive information from others is way different than how other people receive information. This is exactly what I'm saying. So you need to know yourself, because a lot of the times we can grow up in an environment, watch our parents, or pick up certain behaviors that ain't got nothing to do with who we are and how we manifest as individuals, and how we go about getting our one two, and what we're here to experience as revelations, enlightening moments, dark moments, so we can actually get to this where we need to get to, which is basically just creating a spaceship that hopefully does not look like this world. Because you want to be able to bring something that's out of this world, not necessarily something in this world. Everything in this world is like just reference material, study material, because everything that's solid came from something that's static. Everything that's visible came from something that's invisible. So all things really are just in the ether, anyways, and we all have access to those things. We may just look at those things differently, and that's where you get like personality, individuality, how you personally go about things and shit like that, which you're personally into, which can develop to your personality, which is basically just your ascendant and shit like that. So use tools like numerology and astrology to get to know yourself, but also give yourself time to actually sit down and really use the system like astrology, for example. Look at your houses and actually start to actually project yourself, or just go into a past memory or experience about how you can relate the sign that's going on inside of that house, and see how you project yourself inside of that house. And you start to map out your life and shit like that. Literally, you start creating like a mental construct and shit like that, like an understanding of Saturn, like the systems of life, because we build systems and shit like that. But that's the original system that we're observing, and we're creating our own systems based on that and shit like that. Because we're playing out a possibility a finite possibility within within the infinity and shit like that. So, and we're trying to continuously create new possibilities within this infinity, but there's people that try to keep you finite and docile and weak and unaware and shit like that. You know, basically, you can, you know, I'm saying there's a lot of names to refer to those groups by and shit like that. But at the end of the day, it don't even matter as long as you're focused, you're getting into your space, you're understanding yourself, and you're moving how you're supposed to move. You're gonna manifest and change the world naturally. At the end of the day, that's what we're here to do. So learn about yourself because ain't nothing more important than that. Period.